We're officially just hours away from Apple's first event of the year. WWDC 2025 is almost here, and today I want to go over all the final leaks and rumors for everything Apple is planning to announce. From top to bottom, Apple's gearing up to revamp all of their software, and this event is going to be one of the most important in recent history. First though, I just want to get some bad news out of the way. There is not going to be any new physical hardware on Monday, June 9th. Apple is planning to structure the entirety of the event around all of their platforms, but specifically the software side. And while typically this would bum me out, I really think it's for good reason. Because this year, Apple isn't doing a minor incremental change to all of their software. They are doing a massive redesign, as it turns out, not just for the iPhone, but for everything. Yeah, according to a new report, Apple is planning to refresh the design language across all of their platforms at once. So iPhone, iPad, Mac, Apple Watch, Apple TV, everything that they touch will have this new look, which they keep teasing will be infused with frosted glass everywhere and have new animations. It's a new design era for Apple, similar to what they did back in 2013 with iOS 7. Except this time, instead of starting with the iPhone, they're starting with everything. Now, to be clear, this is a massive undertaking, and if Apple can actually pull this off, I'll be impressed. But they sure seem to think they can, because they're not just unifying the design alone, they're also unifying all of the names. Because we're not actually getting iOS 19 and macOS 17 and visionOS 3 and watchOS 12. We're all getting Apple software 26. From here on out, all of Apple software will have the final release year as the number. So this year we're getting iOS 26 because, like a car, you release it in 2025, but it's new in 2026. I don't know how to describe it, but just like cars do, that's what Apple's doing with all of their software to make it more easy to understand. I know it's a bit of a shock at first, but the more I've thought about it, the more it makes sense. And again, with Apple changing everything, yeah, changing the name of everything and making that the same also adds up. So now that we know what all the software is going to look like and what Apple is calling it, I want to go platform by platform to show you all the last minute leaks for the features you can expect to see. Starting off first with the iPhone and iOS 26. Beginning with the Messages app in iOS 26, Apple is adding polls to iMessage. So you'll now be able to send in a group an option for what everybody would like to decide on, which is going to make planning so much better than it is currently. Another long requested feature is Messages backgrounds, and Apple is also adding that this year. These will sync across devices and conversations, so you and your friend can have the same background regardless of where you're talking. On top of that, there will also be instant translation, so if you ever get a text message in a different language, your device, without you having to do anything, will translate it into your device's default. This is actually one of many translation features Apple's adding as part of a completely new Translate app in iOS 19 that will also let you have a real-time conversation using AirPods with two different people that speak two different languages. Next, in the Music app, Apple's planning to expand full-screen album artwork to the lock screen. Right now, you can only view this inside of the Music app, but with iOS 26, you'll now be able to see this front and center as soon as you turn on your phone's display. Following that, the Notes app is finally gaining support for the Markdown language. This is where you use hashes and simpler text to input headers and other paragraphs. It essentially allows you to type quicker and easier, and it's something I use a lot. So the fact that you can now utilize this in the stock Notes app is going to be a huge improvement. We've also gotten confirmation that CarPlay will be updated with the new user interface to match iOS 19. So it's also going to basically make your car interface look way more modern, which could really go a long way into making an aging vehicle feel brand new on the infotainment. Next, iOS 19 adds Apple's latest privacy and security improvements, but it's still not enough to protect you and your information online. See, recently, for years, I found out people had been collecting info about me and then selling it to third parties. It's why you're always getting random spam emails and phone calls that you never signed up for. So I go and find out you can stop that from happening, but that you have to reach out to all of these data brokers individually. There are hundreds of them out there, and the process is super confusing. It's why I turned to Incogni, who sponsored today's video. See, on your behalf, they reach out automatically to all of these evil people selling your stuff. They tell them to stop, and they even give you a detailed dashboard where you can see the progress of everything. Since I started using Incogni, my quality of life has gone up dramatically. I am so much more peaceful on the internet, and I feel like I got a fresh start at privacy. So take your personal data back with Incogni and use code AppleTrack at the link below to get 60% off an annual plan when you go to incogni.com/AppleTrack. A huge thank you to them for sponsoring this video. I love them, and I now can't imagine my life without them. Okay, let's get back to the rest of the video. Now, one of the more surprising updates in iOS 26 is an updated phone app, which Apple is going to be reorganizing completely. There's a new view that combines your contacts and your recent calls and voicemails into a single window. It sounds like it's going to be blending with the new glass interface. However, if for some reason you don't want to use this, there will be a toggle to go back to the traditional look for the phone app. iOS 26 will also be bringing the preview app to the iPhone and to the iPad for the first time. This is Apple's in-house PDF editing software, and it is actually really good. The fact that it hasn't been on the iPhone until now is really surprising, and I can't wait to use this later this year. Now, iOS 26 will also have a pretty big focus on AI, but in sort of a roundabout way. We're hearing that Apple will be adding it to the Shortcuts app, so for a more complex shortcut that uses a lot of different features and functions, it could be easier to just say what you want to do in plain language than having to do it manually. And they're also opening up their proprietary Apple Intelligence models to third-party developers so they can integrate those features in their apps more easily. As for everything else though, we're hearing that Apple is going to essentially rebrand a bunch of existing features as being powered by AI, and they're not going to add that much truly new on the iPhone. On the Apple Watch though, with watchOS 26, AI is going to be much more real, as currently Apple does not market this product to be compatible with Apple Intelligence at all, and it's been a pretty big shock to me, as having a smarter version of Siri on your wrist seems way more useful than even on your phone. According to a new rumor, Apple's fixing that this year, and watchOS 26 will have new features marked as powered by Apple Intelligence because nothing will actually run on device. Unlike the iPhone that has a powerful enough chip to run a lot of Apple's models directly on their iPhone, the watch does not have that power, so everything will be offloaded to the cloud for quick actions using AI here, which honestly seems like a pretty fair trade-off, and I'm just excited to finally see some AI come to the Apple Watch. Also, a small tidbit for watchOS 26 is that Apple will finally be adding third-party widget support inside of Control Center, so developers will be able to put their own toggles alongside Apple's for the first time. Next up is AirPods, and while traditionally I haven't thought about this as a core Apple platform, they do add new features every year, and the same is true in 2025. This year, Apple's starting off big by finally adding sleep auto pause to AirPods. So if you're somebody that frequently falls asleep with your AirPods in, Apple will now be able to detect that and stop or pause your media so you don't play through your entire playlist or run your battery down throughout the night. AirPods are also going to get a lot better for content creation, as Apple is said to be greatly improving the audio mix feature and adding an exclusive studio mic option that uses the microphones of AirPods, and using AI makes it sound a lot better. And right alongside that, AirPods can now become a remote for your iPhone to capture media. It sounds like if the camera app is open, you'd be able to take an AirPod out and click the stem like a mini remote to start video recording or to snap a photo, which sounds super dope. Apple's also been working to make the head gesture support even better by adding additional tasks this time around. And lastly, in an educational setting, it sounds like one iPad can now be paired with multiple pairs of AirPods so that multiple students, for example, could see the same video without the audio playing out loud. Honestly, was not expecting Apple to be doing this much with AirPods this year, but they have a ton in the works. I'm also so intrigued by with what Apple's doing on the Mac this year with macOS 26. The name has leaked out. It's going to be macOS Tahoe, which is a pretty big lake here in California. Apple has been doing these California names for a long time coming, about as long as they've been saying you can game on a Mac, which is technically true. There are some AAA titles that are now available on the Mac with the power of Apple Silicon, but the reality is that if you have any other platform, most people are not choosing to game on the Mac, which Apple is trying to change more seriously this year. We had previously heard about Apple's work on a dedicated gaming app that will house all of your different games in one spot, as well as support leaderboards and friend functionality. And on the Mac version, they're doing something that I will believe when I see, because it doesn't sound very like Apple. In addition to showing all of your App Store purchased games, they're also said to show games that you purchased from the web or outside of Apple's control, which they've never done before. They generally don't like when you install apps outside of the App Store. But by finally acknowledging that this outside market is real and it does exist, I think that would be a big step for gaming on the Mac. But that being said, what about gaming on Apple's other platforms? What about gaming on the Apple Vision Pro? Well, this year with visionOS 26, I believe this could be changing. A few months ago, we saw a report that Apple was secretly working with Sony to integrate their PlayStation VR controllers with the Apple Vision Pro. If Apple follows through with this, it would enable an entirely new category of games, and I believe it could genuinely change the course of the Apple Vision Pro, because at the end of the day, it is a VR headset, a really expensive one, but still a VR headset. Fingers crossed that this is ready in time for Apple to unveil visionOS 26, because I do think the Apple Vision Pro needs a Hail Mary. This product is not selling well, and I just want to be able to do something with it other than watch movies. And on top of that, we have heard about one other change coming in visionOS 26, and that is the ability to scroll with your eyes. According to a new report, Apple is bolstering the existing eye tracking technology, and they have enough confidence to hands-free allow you to scroll around the visionOS software. If you want to do that, I guess, or that, it sounds kind of exhausting. I don't know what the Vision Pro is doing. I don't know if Apple knows what they're doing with that product, but it does sound like they're on the verge, potentially, of something really dope. I guess my through line for this entire video is I hope Apple can pull all of this off. They have a lot of major ambitions here, and we haven't seen them try something this risky since 2013 with iOS 7, the infamous update that was the most controversial thing Apple's ever released. I'm not too concerned about the software being completely bug-free or perfect on day one. I'm just excited to hear that Apple's trying again. It's not the same thing, or at least I hope not, based off these rumors. We're getting something new, and I haven't felt this way in a long time, so I'm stoked. Just this entire year for Apple, I feel like I'm feeling good. I hope I'm not let down, or I will be absolutely crushed, but that is a story for another day. I will see you guys at the event in just a couple days. So many videos coming. I love you all, and I will see you in my next video. Bye-bye.